Hello friends, very good evening, greetings to all of you. So in this chilly weather, we should actually cover ourselves very well with the warm clothes. Instead of repenting, it's actually better to adopt a proactive approach. So I hope it's better done than just said. So dear friends, I welcome you all to this great, amazing economic platform wherein we discuss the economic news of great relevance on daily basis. So dear guys, today we are basically going to begin our economic session with the address given by Mr. Mukesh Ambani on the occasion of the 90th birth anniversary of his father, Shri Dhirubhai Ambani ji. So here it begins. Actually, he is of the view that India can become $40 trillion economy by 2047. The Reliance Industries Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. Mukesh Ambani, on Wednesday, that is on 28 December 2022, claimed that the next 25 years of the country are actually going to be the most transformational, adding that India can become a $40 trillion economy by 2047. Ambani said that the aim of Reliance is to make India prosperous by building the world-class and world-scale businesses and to bring happiness to the lives of all Indians. While speaking at the event of the Reliance Family Day function, he said, "Years will roll, decades will pass, Reliance will continue to grow bigger and bigger like the proverbial banyan tree. Its branches will spread wider, its roots will go deeper, and it will touch the lives of an ever-increasing number of Indians, enriching them, empowering them, nourishing them, and caring for them." As you know, we are living through a tough time when the world is actually beginning to see the 21st century as India's century. Our Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi ji has aptly described it as India's Amrutkal. The next 25 years are actually going to be the most transformational in the 5,000-year-old history of India. This is actually when India is poised to achieve exponential economic growth. We can become a $40 trillion economy by 2047, the basic centenary of our independence, in a sustainable and stable manner, he then added. The chairman also said that the gratitude of their founder, who planted the seed of this Vat Vriksh 45 years ago, will always be remembered. But we will forever remember with gratitude our founder who planted the seed of this Vat Vriksh 45 years ago. In Hindu tradition, the Vat Vriksh is noble, it is sacred. Whenever I think about Reliance and the mission for which my father founded it, I believe that there is similarly something noble and sacred about that mission, he then said. Mr. Ambani then spoke about how the goal can be achieved. According to him, the power of young demography, mature democracy, and the newly acquired power of technology will make it realistic. So, from an era of shortages, scarcity, and widespread poverty, India will enter an era of inclusive prosperity and abundance of opportunities and unimaginable improvement in the ease of living and quality of life of 1.4 billion Indians. Similarly, at a time when uncertainty, volatility, and even regression can be seen in many parts of the world, India is being regarded globally as a shining spot. Therefore, I would like every leader and every employee in Reliance to know that the destiny has given us an opportunity, a wonderful opportunity, and also a responsibility to make a pivotal contribution to the realization of the enormous promise of India's Amrit Kal, Mr. Mukesh Ambani said. He also mentioned that Reliance has embarked on a journey of comprehensive self-transformation, adding that the company will complete its golden decade in 5 years from now. He then hailed the achievements of the company and said it has made everyone proud. However, he also added that in the future it is going to be more exciting, more rewarding, but also more challenging at the same time. So, we are now going to discuss that how Ambani became Alibaba and Alphabet of India. On the eve of Shri Dhirubhai Ambani's 90th birth anniversary, pictures of his eldest son Mukesh and wife Neeta cradling their newly born twin grandchildren Aditya and Krishna were perhaps the perfect family portrait. It's been 2 decades since Mukesh succeeded his father as the chairman and managing director of the family jewel Reliance Industries, that is RIL. If Reliance Industries' swashbuckling founder was the biggest disruptor and beneficiary of India's license Raj regime of the 20th century, who broke the hegemony of the legacy business elites, unafraid to play hardball when shut out by the bigger incumbents, Mukesh Dhirubhai Ambani is now remaking his father's energy juggernaut into a conglomerate that is actually poised for the 21st century. That is, molding according to the time is actually the key to success. Over the last 20 years under Mr. Mukesh Dhirubhai Ambani, the Reliance Industries Limited's market capitalization grew at an annualized rate of 20.6%, revenues by a similar annualized rate of 15.4%, and a net profit 16.4%. But dry statistics only give half the picture. To really study the Reliance Industries Limited's rise over the last 2 decades, one actually needs to equally emphasize the journey that still lies ahead. Mr. Mukesh Ambani inherited a cash machine in the family's petrochemicals and oil refining group post a family settlement with his younger brother, Mr. Anil. But it was unglamorous and a sunset industry. Thus, in 2010, he re-entered telecom with a spectrum license to rewrite the destiny of his group and that of the entire telecom sector. This basically befuddled many commentators then, who questioned why a company that ran one of the world's most successful oil refineries would invest multiple billions in a cutthroat industry when India was guzzling energy, while average revenue per user was basically plummeting. It still is just a tad more than $2 a month. The Reliance sees itself today as a technology giant that has basically partnered with the best of Silicon Valley. Meta, that is Facebook, Google, and Microsoft, is a basic testament to a vision that is still a work in progress. Ambani is India's Alibaba, lording over an $200 billion balance sheet, overseeing a seemingly diverse empire. Refining, telecom, retail, internet, media, sport, but all connected by the mountains of data that each of the verticals throw up and which can be harnessed further. Nowhere in the world has any conglomerate of Reliance Industries Limited's scale pivoted not once but 3 times. As Mr. Rahul Malhotra of Bernstein Research petitely put it some time back, Reliance Industries Limited today is ExxonMobil, Amazon, Alibaba, Netflix, Google, and AT&T rolled into one. Even then, Mr. Ambani needs new growth engines. Despite his growing heft in data-spewing consumer businesses, Reliance Industries Limited stock in 2022 has largely been in line with the market, unlike the past 4 years when it contributed 30 to 40% of the total market rally. That's largely because even today, The lion's share of the group's revenues and a little over half of the operating profits come from the legacy energy businesses, which is increasingly becoming a single-digit return on capital employed business. A windfall tax on transportation fuels and work refining and polymer margins are hurting the conglomerate's legacy petrochemicals and energy operations. Reliance Industries Limited shares today the trade at below 40 times multiples compared to the billionaire Mr. Gautam Adani, whose recent rise has seen the flagship Adani Enterprises trade at an extremely steep multiple of 393. We are basically going to discuss the graphical analysis of drawing the comparison of the success of Adani Enterprises and Reliance Industries Limited. The onus is on Mukesh Ambani's youngest son, the 27-year-old Anand, who is likely to preside over the new energy business and give final shape to his dad's vision to radically morph the polluting hydrocarbons empire towards cleaner energy. That is, solar panels, sodium-ion batteries, and most importantly, green hydrogen at under $1 per kilogram within a decade, or what his dad calls the 111 target. But thus far, we have only seen baby steps, perhaps highlighting the group's lack of conviction on the right technology that will actually fire the future. Earlier this year, Mr. Mukesh Ambani outlined his succession plan with Akash and Isha, being the first amongst equals in the telecom and retail businesses. Today, Reliance consolidated profit per earning ratio reflects a sum of the parts of the businesses, but since its telecom retail subsidiaries are unlisted, different analysts continue to ascribe different multiples to various businesses. Telecom and retail have marquee PEs sitting on cap table, so we still see the probable value unlocking and better crystallization of the valuations. Now, let's draw the comparative analysis of the success of Reliance Industries Limited and Adani Enterprises. As far as the one-year return is concerned, for Reliance Industries Limited, it is just 6.1%, but for Adani Enterprises, it is 116.7%. That's quite huge. Then for the 5-year returns, it is 22.5% for RIL and 87.2% for Adani Enterprises. Then as far as the 10-year returns are concerned, it's 11.7% for the Reliance Industries Limited and 53.8% for Adani Enterprises. So it's a huge journey actually. And these are basically the compound annual growth returns of the share price. And the source of this statistical analysis is Equity Master. Now, dear guys, we will discuss that how Jio will complete pan-India 5G rollout by 2023 as per Ambani. Reliance Jio will basically complete the rollout of its 5G services in India by 2023. Reliance Industries Chairman Mr. Mukesh Ambani said on 28 December 2022. Mr. Ambani said Jio's immediate parent, Jio Platforms, should now develop digital solutions for the Indians and overseas markets. Earlier in the day, the telecom operator had announced the launch of 5G services in 11 cities, including Trivandrum, Mysuru, Nashik, Aurangabad, Chandigarh, and Tri-City, and in some areas of Mohali, Panchkula, Zirakpur, Kharar, and Derabasi. Speaking at the company's Family Day celebrations, Mr. Ambani lauded the team at Jio for what he claimed was the fastest deployment of a 5G network anywhere in the world. Jio's 5G deployment will actually be complete by 2023. I congratulate the Jio team for further consolidating their number one position, he said. Mr. Ambani said the next step for Jio Platforms, the holding company of Reliance Jio Infocomm, would be to provide the digital solutions that can actually be exported to other markets. Jio Platforms should now get ready for India's next big opportunity to provide unique digital solutions to both domestic and international markets, he said. Mr. Ambani stressed on the importance of 5G in bridging the urban-rural divide in the country. Since every village in India will soon have 5G, we can ensure the urban-rural divide is removed. Mr. Ambani said, no Indian will be deprived of high-quality education, high-quality healthcare, and high productivity. Jio started a phased rollout of its 5G services under the Jio True 5G branding in October this year, that is in 2022 itself. In the current quarter, it has ramped up its presence across the country with launches in Gujarat, Pune, Kochi, and Andhra Pradesh, among others. It has also announced the tie-ups with the handset makers Apple, Xiaomi, and OnePlus, among others, to bundle its 5G services with their smartphones. So dear guys, this insightful discussion is actually very relevant for all of us because it helps us to count the efforts which one has to put in order to become a successful entrepreneur, a successful leader, a successful pioneer. So this is really worth an applause. Really amazing. Hats off. Now, dear guys, let's discuss certain economic parameters of our country. Now, as far as the budget is concerned, which has to be released on 1st February. So can the budget measures inoculate India against the deadly virus visit from China? Because this is a new development and it is also expected that 40 days from now, the spread of COVID virus will actually be at a very high speed in the Indian economy. And at the same time, the budget of India will be coming out. So, can the budget measures inoculate India against the deadly virus visit from China? Let's see. Globally, the countries had eased COVID-19 restrictions, hoping the pandemic is finally at bay to ensure people movement and support business continuity. However, the recent spike in COVID-19 cases in Japan, South Korea, the United States of America, France, and especially China points out that the end is probably not in sight. No. The surge in cases is actually fueling the concerns that countries might reinforce various restrictions once again, including India. The rising COVID-19 counts in China are particularly worrying for India. Yes, my dear friends, it's actually very, very worrisome as China has lifted its zero COVID policy, which has actually increased the risk of contagion, especially with its neighboring countries. And India is the neighboring country of China. So, if the outbreak in China is not controlled, the supply chain will be severely disrupted, once again leading to the supply chain disruptions or the further acceleration in the supply chain disruptions. This would impact the growth across countries worldwide and could potentially trigger recessions across the countries. Needless to remind, the world economy is already battling a slowdown with constrained fiscal policy and a tightening monetary policy. Yes, my dear friends, the global economic environmental situation was already very, very gloomy, and it's gloomy because of the ongoing Ukraine-Russia war, supply chain disruptions, and now the resurge of the COVID-19 cases will actually hamper the overall developmental progress. and it will further accelerate the problems. The current situation is actually a painful reminder of what happened 3 years ago in Wuhan, China. However, this time, if the virus spreads to other countries, especially India, it stands well prepared to avoid a major outbreak, as the efforts have been made at various levels to upgrade the health infrastructure and the capacities have been built to provide vaccinations. The government in 2021 allocated 641.8 billion rupees to develop the capacities of primary, secondary and tertiary care systems and to strengthen the capacities from direction and in order to detect and cure the tertiary care systems over 6 years. So even if the current outbreak, especially in China, does not lead to the fourth wave in India, India would still be impacted. The major channels of impact would be through the sentiment, legal linkages of the companies, supply chain and macroeconomic factors, weak demand, price fluctuations, etc. So it's really a very, very delicate time. Given China's linkages with the world economy, investors will remain highly risk averse towards emerging markets, including India, impacting the financial flows. The already weak rupee, yesterday we had just discussed the matter of currency depreciation. So the already weak rupee will continue to depreciate strongly, raising the risk of further widening the current account deficit, which is already expected to stay above 3.0% of GDP in the financial year 2023. Dun and Bradstreet data shows that there are more than 10,000 Indian entities that have legal linkages with the companies in the 5 countries, that is China, Japan, South Korea, the United States of America and France, that are currently experiencing a rise in the number of cases. Linkage is the relationship between different businesses within a corporate family when one company has financial or legal responsibility for another company. I repeat, linkage is actually the relationship between different businesses within a corporate family when the company has financial or legal responsibility for another company. A slowdown in business activity in these markets implies a negative impact on the top line of these companies. However, the extent of the impact should depend on the nature of the linkage. For instance, a slowdown in the business activity of a foreign subsidiary would have potentially more far-reaching impacts than a slowdown in the business activity of a foreign affiliate. From a trade perspective, the implications are actually widespread. India's import dependency on China causes the vulnerabilities in its supply chain. Imports from China have doubled since 2000, and China accounts for nearly 40% of India's total trade deficit. Besides, India's export outlook also appears grim, as the import demand of 60% of India's top 30 partners is expected to contract or witness a slowdown in 2023 by the International Monetary Fund. However, not all spells grim news for India. In fact, given COVID-19 outbreak 3 years ago, the businesses are now diversifying away from China, adopting China Plus One or China Plus Two strategy. This places India at an advantage which we have been regularly discussing in our sessions. India should leverage this opportunity and strongly focus on creating the more chances or more opportunities to attract the investors' interests, manage the stiff competition from low-cost manufacturing destinations such as Vietnam, Malaysia, and Bangladesh, and therefore focus on becoming self-reliant. So, In this regard, we could expect the government to announce some measures in the union budget. We expect the government to extend the PLI schemes, that is the production linked incentive schemes, to new and upcoming sectors. Besides accelerating efforts towards one district, one product, that is OPOP scheme, and linking this to create export hubs would also help in job creation and therefore creating an organized market for traditional products. Removing land acquisition bottlenecks, improving basic infrastructure, and judicial reforms should continue to remain the key priority areas. I repeat, removing land acquisition bottlenecks, improving basic infrastructure, and judicial reforms should continue to remain the key priority areas. Besides, achieving the target of allocating 2.5% of GDP to expenditure on health by 2025 remains crucial. We expect the government to enhance the allocation to health expenditure this year. India not only stands better prepared in terms of health infrastructure and management if a health crisis arises because of the COVID outbreak, but its domestic demand remains resilient. Domestic supply chain pressures have eased and external debt continues to be prudently managed. I repeat, India not only stands better prepared in terms of health infrastructure and management if a health crisis arises, but its domestic demand remains resilient, domestic supply chain pressures have eased, and external debt continues to be prudently managed. India has partnered with 17 countries to alleviate the near-term transportation, logistics and supply chain disruption and bottlenecks, as well as the long-term resilience challenges. India has adequate forex reserves to manage the volatility in the rupee, and its import cover is around 8 months, more than the 3 months conventionally used as a thumb rule for the reserve adequacy for most developing countries. The forex reserves also cover 100% of outstanding short-term external debt with residual maturity of 1 year, that is the Greenspan Guidotti rule. The ratio of the short-term debt to the forex reserves stood at 22% at the end of June, lower than the levels witnessed during 2013, that is 33 at the end of March, and 2014, that is 30 at the end of March. The rupee settlement system for the international trade, facilitating the invoicing, payment and settlement of exports and imports to all countries through the Vostro accounts, has been a novel initiative as it is garnering the interest from various countries. Nonetheless, ensuring macroeconomic stability would be critical given the heightened uncertainty and numerous headwinds to growth. I repeat, ensuring macroeconomic stability would be critical given the heightened uncertainty and numerous headwinds to growth. As we know that in the global economy, the earthquake is happening. So we have to prevent ourselves. The domestic supply chain management to ensure low and stable inflation, maintaining fiscal prudence to prevent growth in the national debt, ensuring less volatility in the currency, and keeping the interest rates as low as possible would be pertinent. So what are the key strategies? Domestic supply chain management to ensure low and stable inflation, maintaining fiscal prudence to prevent growth in the national debt, ensuring less volatility in the currency, and keeping the interest rates as low as possible would be pertinent. So these are the 4 key strategies. So in this regard, the Reserve Bank of India's decisive action to actually remain behind the curve compared to other countries in raising the interest rates has helped the economy to remain resilient. Prematurely raising the policy rates would have constricted the growth further, and India would have been in a less advantageous situation to face the current circumstances. So Dr. Rsng has articulated this article very well, and he who represents the global chief economist Dun and Bradstreet is actually the asset for our country, because his overall analysis and his overall strategy for presentation is actually commendable. And my dear friends, as he has just mentioned, that prematurely raising the policy rates would have constricted the growth further, and India would have been in a less advantageous situation to face the current circumstances. So all thanks go to the extremely dynamic and the well strategized policies and the overall framework developed by our renowned leaders, which is actually again worth an applause. So this is really remarkable. And we are very fortunate to be led by such far-sighted leaders who analyze each and every intricacy in detail. Now, my dear friends, we are basically going to discuss another main insight or another main aspect related to Indian economy and Chinese economy, or the impact of the disturbances occurring in the Chinese economy on the Indian economy. The world seeks Indian alternative to the Chinese Telecom Solutions. We have just said that India is at an advantage, so this is another insight which we are going to discuss now in this regard. The global companies are counting on the Indian tech sector to offer an alternative to the Chinese Telecom Solutions in a geopolitically uncertain environment, which will also be a driver for the 5G enterprise ecosystem in the country, the industry executive said. The Indian IT services industry will play a significant role in providing such solutions by creating the new revenue models and developing the requisite talent ecosystem to drive the enterprise 5G use cases, the experts who were speaking during a roundtable with ET and technology industry body NASSCOM said. The geopolitical situation is actually obviously causing disruptions in the supply chain. Yes, there is this conversation about China plus one in terms of where will the alternative supply chain come from? And people are actually looking at India. They are looking at us from every aspect of being able to deliver those solutions, said Mr. Jagdish Mitra, Chief Strategy Officer at Tech Mahindra. According to a recent NASSCOM report, 5G is actually expected to power up to 2% of India's gross domestic product, amounting to $180 billion by 2030, with little scope to drastically improve the unit pricing, that is average revenue per user or ARPU, in the retail telecom segment. The use of 5G in enterprises is basically expected to be the next growth avenue. With consumers, you can have an average revenue per user improvement right up to a certain limit, and no consumer is going to pay double the price. So the focus is on the enterprise segment, which is going to actually drive the business case for 5G itself, said Mr. Garan Priyasi, Associate Vice President at software services firm Infosys. India currently has the second highest number of telecom users in the world at 1.1 billion, of which 740 million are 4G customers. 5G is expected to create the new value through hyperconnectivity and hence catalyze the digital transformation across sectors. The country needs at least 5 times the existing pool of 5G ready technology talent to address the large-scale enterprise demand, said Mr. Achyuta Ghosh, head of NASSCOM Insight, adding that this is something the NASSCOM Future Skills platform can address. The good part is that the 5G skill set has a large overlap with traditional Indian skill sets of artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, that is IoT, big data, cloud diversity. Those kinds of skill sets are already available. They will be required from a 5G perspective, but there would be a demand-supply gap, Ghosh said. India will need around 22 million people skilled in various 5G capabilities by 2025, according to the Telecom Sector Skills Council. Ghosh said that even minor certifications in areas like security, network maintenance, and operations can bring in more talent to the 5G pool. So this is very well articulated, dear guys, and this is really insightful. And it very well presents that how it is an advantageous position for India as the world seeks Indian alternative to the Chinese Telecom Solutions. Now we are basically going to discuss some news related to the Indian economy. Dismantle the terror ecosystem, Mr. Shah, during the J&K review meet. The Union Home Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, on Wednesday, that is on 28 December 2022, stressed on the government's zero tolerance policy on terrorism and said the entire terror ecosystem must be dismantled. The Union Health Minister, Mr. Amit Shah, on 28 December 2022, stressed on the government's zero tolerance policy on terrorism and said the entire terror ecosystem must be dismantled. The minister held a security review meeting in New Delhi with J&K Lieutenant Governor Mr. Manoj Sinha, Union Home Secretary Mr. Ajay Bhalla, Intelligence Bureau Director Mr. Tapan Dekar, and Research and Analysis Wing Chief Mr. Samant Goyal. Officials of the Home Ministry and J&K administration also attended the meeting. Mr. Shah reviewed the functioning of the security grid and therefore gave directions to follow the policy of zero tolerance against terrorism, which is actually the key requirement. He also examined the developmental works being implemented in Jammu and Kashmir and emphasized on timely completion of projects, the Home Ministry said in a news release. He directed the officials to strive their best to achieve 100% saturation of the beneficiaries under various schemes and therefore ensure the benefits of development reach every section of the society, the ministry said. So this is again very insightful, and all thanks go to the extremely very well strategized approach of Mr. Amit Shah, the great pioneer and a great asset for our country, the Union Home Minister. Thank you, sir. And also Mr. Hein Ekin, the great international pioneer, views India as a large market, and he emphasizes on the fact that it must be seen like a continent, not a country. Mr. Hein Ekin, the world's second biggest brewer, said India, a focus market, is similar to how China was 20 years ago, and it should be seen as a continent instead of a country given its scale and complexity. There are some parallels to draw with China 20 years ago. India is more of a continent than a country, and to really understand this large and complex market, you would have to de-average the market. Jaco Wender Linden, President APAC at Hein Ekin, told analysts during its capital markets event. The Dutch brewing firm acquired a majority control of UBL, the erstwhile flagship brand of Vijay Mallya's UB Group, in July last year, that is in 2021. India's beer market is worth $10 billion or 28 million hectoliters, that is MHL. Much smaller than the Chinese market, where beer worth 65 billion rupees or 488 MHL is sold annually. The maker of Amstel and Kingfisher beer said the beer accounts for just 10% of the spirits market with per capita consumption of 2 liters. We clearly see opportunities to unlock the future growth. We have a job to do to strive for a more fair regulatory environment for beer. The beer price is also relatively expensive and has very much to do with the excise regime, said Linden, also a member of Heineken's executive team. And the outlet universe is relatively small. If you compare it to the average FMCG, that is the fast-moving consumer goods universe of 10 million, it is basically 90,000 licensed outlets that we have in India. And alcohol penetration, for example, is only 1% against women. In India, the strong beer accounts for over 80% of total volumes, and many consumers of strong beer are also potential purchasers of value and low-priced spirits. If regulations push up the beer prices, the gap between cheap Indian-made foreign liquor and beer closes sufficiently for the consumers to switch, according to IWSR Drinks Market Analysis Report. So dear friends, this is also a very insightful and in-depth analytical discussion which says that India, a large market, must be actually seen like a continent and not like a country. So this is actually very worthwhile. Moreover, why India should host 2036 Olympics? India's plan to make a bid to host the Olympics in 2036 not only makes the eminent sense, but it should be pursued with Olympian enthusiasm and well-strategized planning. The two not always coming in one automatic package. This is no fuzzy wish for an aspirational world power. So dear friends, we are going to have an in-depth analytical discussion on this particular aspect tomorrow. That is why India should host 2036 Olympics. And this is really this is going to be really a very worthwhile discussion. Till then, I actually give you a homework to actually collect some facts, try to introspect that why India should host 2036 Olympics. What are the core strength areas of our economy which will help it to host this mega event of sports? So here is your work. You have to be prepared for it till tomorrow morning, guys. So be well prepared, because we are going to disclose the facts tomorrow that why India should host the 2036 Olympics. And your overall efforts would actually be very constructive and productive for your own development, dear guys. It's for your own grooming to actually see and analyze where you are standing in terms of the knowledge of the Indian economy. And I know all of you are great pioneers, the future assets of the country. So please be well prepared. So dear guys, that's all for today's session, and I really wish you must have been benefited immensely with this great, insightful and in-depth analytical discussion. So let's meet tomorrow well prepared and well charged with positivity. Thank you so much. Namaskar. Jai Hind.